You know, when it comes to the Pokemon series, I've been playing this game for a long time, ever since Generation 3, back in 2004. And ever since then, I fell in love with it. Each and every generation of Pokemon brought something new and interesting, especially among the characters, specifically the villains. Generation 7 happens to be my favorite generation, with my favorite villain being Lusamine. However, when I saw Generation 8 and took a look at Oleana, I was thinking, oh my dear goodness, they're pulling another Hal. Basically, by I mean Hal is everyone talking about Hop and how they reuse his animations. I thought Oleana originally was going to be just a Lusamine copy. However, I couldn't be more wrong. At least, well, not at first, however. When I first played the game of Pokemon, I exactly thought she was that, just a poor design of Lusamine, a cut and copy paste with a different cool, unique set of clothing. However, once the anime came out, it managed to show me what Oleana really is. Oleana is an overstressed out character who's probably gone through a whole lot in her life. Interesting enough, her backstory contains her being poor and having a little trubbish, which is kind of really cute, the fact that they kept the trubbish in the original anime. When I first saw her working in a lab coat, kind of reminded me of Velma. When I saw Chairman Rose come over her and talk about how she was a diamond in the rough, I thought that was a very interesting and unique thing, considering Oleana pretty much looks like a diamond in the rough when you consider her design. Speaking of her design, let's talk about it. She's got interesting hoop earrings, which I actually really like. They're the shape of the Dynamax raid dens, which are pretty unique and interesting. I think her design represents organized chaos very well. Everything you see, to the lab coat to the skirt, is very nicely and evenly shown down. However, her hair and her dress on the shirt has a little rough and scruffiness to it, which you can definitely see when she gets overly crazed. It's like she has everything organized except when it's not. One thing that's very interesting about Oleana is even after you defeat her, she doesn't come up upset or anything like crazy angrily or really sad. She more just becomes gloomy and just really tired. It's actually quite hilarious. She even says that she was no match and she was overthinking. She even calls herself a foolish woman, as she knew that it was an impossible defeat, yet she even took on a task that is way too great for her, which is kind of unique and interesting because she basically shows that she'll work for anything, even when it's obviously a loss. One thing that I really liked about the anime is that they showed her basically complaining to the taxi driver about that they're called Gigantamax Pokemon, not Dynamax Pokemon. I thought that was pretty unique and interesting and shows how overly stressed she is. Now, let's talk about the rest of her. Was she a good character overall? I think she was. Very much needed into the game. I thought she actually did Chairman Rose very nicely. They complemented each other very nicely. Chairman Rose has a more carefree attitude. Oleana keeps her in strict, vigorous condition. She ends up basically making him so that he doesn't go off and do too many weird things, especially the part when he decides to just put on a bathing suit and go swimming instead of doing business. She even manages to keep people away from interviews, even though the chairman is always open for interviews. However, she knows the chairman is a very busy man. In all, generation of Oleana 8 was very interesting. I did like her, and she was actually a very interesting character. I think we're going to see more of her in the upcoming anime with Ash, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that is going to be portrayed, how they're going to portray her. Are they going to go crazy like Lusamine, where they do a whole 180 of her character? I don't think so. I'm not sure if that was really a good decision on the anime to make Lusamine's character basically a 180 flip. But yeah, they're probably going to keep her the same, which I'm kind of glad they are. Hopefully. I don't think they're going to need to 180 flip it. I could see why the Sun and Moon decided to 180 flip Lusamine's character, because Lusamine was bad shit crazy. Oleana isn't bad shit crazy. She's just overworked, overstressed, and doing everything she damn well pleases to help the chairman. Before I end this video, I'd like to talk about one more thing about Oleana's design, and not actually being Oleana, but more being Oleana's Garbodor, and being that of G-Max Garbodor. What's interesting about G-Max Garbodor is it literally just becomes a giant piece of garbage, and you can see every little detail, from boats to trains in its back, It's got a whole bunch of junk, which represents Oleana perfectly, and that whole fact of going back to being a diamond in the rough. If you can see in the back, you can see a Master Ball. Even though everything is distraught and unorganized, there is one beautiful thing that you can get in that Garbodor, that being a Master Ball, which I think represents Oleana perfectly. One thing I'd love Game Freak to do is to actually have a G-Max Garbodor event Pokemon where they give you a free Master Ball. How awesome would that be? It would also like to be Oleana's Garbodor to be exact, and I think it should have her trainer ID as well as a unique trainer, they call those things trainer cards. Because Oleana doesn't have one. Yeah, she technically has one with Chairman Rose, but it's not her trainer card, it's Chairman Rose's. I'd love to see Oleana's personal trainer card. For some reason, I have a picture of it being her with the glasses and maybe a little Trubbish, or perhaps the Trubbish eventually evolving into a Garbodor right after it. It'd be kind of interesting to see how Oleana reacts to her beloved friend turning into a Garbodor. Or maybe it would be even the fact the time when she finally could G-Max her beloved Garbodor. It'll be interesting to see, and I hope Pokemon does that someday soon.